Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, get a chance to talk about the Michigan and Wisconsin game. Can I be real honest? I'm perfectly fine with watching the rest of the Michigan games this year for this segment. I am so annoyed at the fact that we have to watch at least one more Wisconsin game because we're going to be in Madison for the Buckeyes game. I feel like I've seen what I need to see out of Wisconsin football this year, and maybe we can just be done with that.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Did we rewatch? Did we rewatch an Ohio game in preparation for the Ohio game? I can't remember, but I don't. Okay, good. I don't feel like there's a need to rewatch any other Wisconsin games in the lead up for the Wisconsin game. We're going to be watching Illinois. We watched, all kinds of teams, but I don't want to watch any more Wisconsin than we have to. Like this game, or the Ohio State game, and maybe in preparation for the Big Ten championship game. That's it.
I'm perfectly fine with not even watching the Ohio State Wisconsin game. We can just go up there. We can get some cheese curds. We'll hang out. We'll spend some time in Madison. Maybe if the weather's nice, go hit the student union, and then get in the car, head home. I think I can pretty much do our post game show right now. Tony, Wisconsin wasn't able to do anything on offense. Defense looked okay, but boy, the Badgers really couldn't sustain any drives as Ohio State wins 38-0. How does that sound? Sound about right?
That sounds about right. Although I will say, Tom, I know this is not an Ohio State podcast. This is a Michigan Monday podcast. The last time Ohio State went to Madison, ranked number 1, was 2010, and they left that town as losers. So let's just keep that in mind. Anything can happen. But, hey, we saw what happened with Penn State and UCLA. I don't see Nico Iamaleava walking through that door, or Jerry Neuheisel walking through that door, or anybody
James Franklin
else
walking through the door on the Ohio State side of the field.
Right,
Yeah,
sure.
I don't think so. Tony, we should talk though. We don't want to talk about Wisconsin. I am kind of interested to talk a little bit about Michigan in this game. So let's do that instead.
And there's 2 points that stand out to me about Michigan in this game. And the first is that we finally saw the Donavon McCulley that was promised. And he is the wide receiver transfer from Indiana, caught 6 passes for 112 yards and a touchdown. Nice touchdown on a catch and run, broke some tackles, bounced out, took it the distance, caught a nice long one, I think, down the sidelines and had his foot in bounds. They had to review it. The most important part of all of this for me, 7 targets, 6 catches, because Donavon McCulley and quarterback Bryce Underwood have had issues all season long in just being on the same page. And this one, they were finally on the same page, and you saw the results as part of Bryce Underwood's 270 yards passing on the day.
Yeah, they were on the same page, and they were on the same page against a pretty decent defense. I said it earlier, the Wisconsin offense is just garbage juice, but the Wisconsin defense is not bad. They're not, this is not an amazing defense. I think FEI had them somewhere in the 30s maybe, but it's a solid defense overall. And Michigan was able to throw the ball against this defense. And that's something that you don't really expect to see. Michigan has, and even after the game, I saw people saying, well, Michigan still doesn't have wide receivers. It's like, don't they? I mean, I feel like I saw more from Michigan's wide receivers on Saturday against Wisconsin than I have pretty much any other game. Because, Donavon McCulley was really solid. 6 catches, 112 yards, as you said. 100 had the touchdown. 6 catches on 7 targets is solid, and 18.7 yards per catch. That's solid. And then I think we also need to talk about Andrew Marsh, because this is the most we've seen from him. He is the true freshman wide receiver out of Texas that they were very high on, and you saw him early in the season, and he fumbled. I think it was a kickoff return in the season opener. And, you as a true freshman, you can play your way out of the circle of trust pretty easily. And I think that was probably enough to do that. The fact that they had him returning kicks in the season opener was sort of instructive in terms of what they think of him. And then, okay, you fumble, so then you don't play much for a couple weeks. Then he was back, and, he had a really solid day. 4 catches, 80 yards, had a long, the long of 32, but 4 catches on 4 targets. That's all right. That is okay. You're getting open. The throw's there. The throw's on time. Bryce Underwood, you're seeing more from Bryce Underwood. This was a little bit like the Ohio State game where you had, Julian Saint completing 80% of his passes, but he's not throwing the ball downfield. And then, now he's throwing the ball downfield. You can see them sort of taking the training wheels off a little bit. Michigan, Bryce Underwood as a true freshman is not to the level where Julian Saint is right now. I don't think even the biggest Michigan homer in the world would say that he is, but your face says maybe. Okay. Anyone outside of the 98th percentile of biggest Michigan homers would probably not say that he is, but he's a year younger. So you wouldn't, and he obviously can run the ball better than Julian Saint can. But in terms of just the throwing game, I don't think he's quite where Julian Saint is, but you can see the progression for Bryce Underwood week to week. And I feel like I can see the progression for the wide receivers week to week as well. That, for Michigan, that has to be really encouraging, and we can get to Samaj Morgan later. But, for the other two guys, those two guys, I feel like there's some stuff to be really encouraged about for Michigan.
Well, Andrew Marsh was the other point that I took away from this game. 4 catches, 80 yards. He has 5 catches for 110 yards on the season. So this was his breakout game. We've seen him flash. He mentions the returns. He had a 30-yard catch against Central Michigan. But here he was finally fully part of the offense, and you saw what happened. And I think you're going to continue to see that. He's not going to have 4 catches for 80 yards every game. Sometimes, at some point, he'll have 2 for 11, and things just happen. Happened to Marvin Harrison. I'm sure it'll happen with the Marsh here as well, that not everything is going to be outstanding. But I will say, Tom, you mentioned this Wisconsin defense. I'm just going to go ahead and assume, and tell me if you think I'm crazy. This is the first Big Ten defense in history, this Wisconsin defense, to give up back-to-back games of at least 265 yards passing to true freshman quarterbacks. They gave up 265 to Maryland and Malik Washington, gave up 270 to Bryce Underwood. So I know they've got some good parts, but that pass defense for Wisconsin, not great. And you even saw the Samaj Morgan break a tackle on what would have been an 8-yard loss on a little inside give end around on an outside linebacker. It's like, come on. You're like 240 pounds and you're letting Samaj Morgan bust you up. And that's not the first time Samaj Morgan has done that this year, surprisingly. He's done it a little bit of late. And so they're even getting stuff out of Samaj Morgan. Now, granted, it's 9 yards a catch. And it's I do chuckle every time, like Gus Johnson needs to calm down. Anytime Bryce Underwood throws the ball or anytime Samaj Morgan gets the ball, they're like, Samaj Morgan out in space. It's like, yeah, out in space. 4 yards, 8 yards. It's not going to be generally a lot. And if it is, it's going to be the first time ever. And so I realize me saying that, that's just guaranteed a 72-yard catch and run against Ohio State. I'll own it. I don't care. Let's just let him do it first before we declare him this masterful out in space kind of guy.
Yeah, he just, for weeks and weeks and weeks, he'll have his first catch of the game, and it's like, oh, look at that. Maybe they're going to get him involved. And then he finishes with 4 catches for 32 yards every week. I don't know how it happens. And he was 5 catches for 44 yards this week. I was way off. Yeah. So I apologize to Samaj and the rest of the Morgan family for that. But yeah, it feels like they've got 2 wide receivers who look like, oh, these are guys who can play and who can, do things, which Michigan has not had for, long stretches. I can't remember the last time they had 2 wide receivers that you thought like, wow, these are 2 pretty solid wide receivers who I think are probably going to continue to get better. Like the trend line there with those guys, it's not just they're solid, their trend line has been pretty good. When was the last time you saw a Michigan passing offense look pretty competent with the tight ends accounting for, 3 catches for 26 yards and the running backs accounting for 1 catch for 8 yards. So 4 catches for 34 yards for the running backs and tight ends together. And Michigan had a perfectly competent passing offense. That feels like, it was throw it to Colston Loveland, throw it to Donavon Edwards. And one of those guys is going to either have 8 catches for 89 yards or 1 catch for 54 yards or something. This was a Michigan passing offense driven by the quarterback and the wide receivers.
And even when Michigan did have two wide receivers in 2023 with Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson, Colston Loveland, they all had the same number of catches, basically. 48 for Wilson, 47 for Johnson, 45 for Loveland. Then you got Donovan Edwards down there with 30, A.J. Barner, another tight end with 22. So even when they had two competent wide receivers, two pretty good wide receivers, they still involved everybody else as well. And here, this was a pretty dominating effort by the Michigan wide receivers, which we haven't seen in a while. So we'll see if that continues. I would hope for their sake that it would. They might need it to this weekend and at USC. They're going to need as many big plays as they can get, so they'd want to continue that. A long of 33 for McCulley, a long of 32 for Marsh. If they can continue to get explosives out of the passing game, they'll take that. Tom, I expect them to continue getting explosives out of the running game as long as they continue to give the ball to Justice Haynes. He's good seemingly for a 40-yarder or two a week. He went for 117 yards on 19 carries in this one, 2 touchdowns, a long of 43. Tom, they showed a graphic that he was the first Michigan player since 2010 to have 5 100-yard rushing games to start the season. That was Denard Robinson. And my thought is, why not find out who the last running back was? Let's find that aspect of this, because it's even further back for a running back, right? So let's give Justice Haynes more credit by looking to find out who the last running back was, because it may have been, maybe it's like John Vaughn, 1991 or whatever. Like, who knows?
I went back while you were talking, and I thought, I didn't remember Cornelius Johnson having that big of a year in 2023. Tony, how many touchdowns did Cornelius Johnson catch in 2023?
Was it 6?
Was it 1?
What?
It sure was. Yeah. So that, if you're wondering why I don't remember Michigan having 2 really dynamic wide receivers in 2023, well, there are reasons. Anyway, Justice Haynes. Yeah, Justice Haynes he's just kind of, really good. My notes say Justice Haynes really good, which glad I wrote that down.
Yeah.
But, he will make guys miss, has good burst, hits the corner, will hit the long one. Not all the time, but hit a 43-yarder in this one, a couple touchdowns. He is basically, central casting, good Michigan running back. Like, yep, that's what he looks like. Good Michigan running back right there. And does what they need him to do. And they don't need him to be he had 19 carries. They don't need him to be the 25 carry a game guy. And I don't know that they really feel like, I'm a little surprised you're not seeing more Jordan Marshall, frankly. 9 carries, 44 yards for him. Just not, it's been fine. 4.9 yards a carry is fine, but it feels like there's a big gap between RB1 and RB2 for Michigan this year. But a lot of that is because RB1 is pretty darn good. And you're seeing, he didn't have the impact in the passing game that you typically see for a Michigan running back. But if they're able to get it out of the wide receivers, then you just need to, be able to run the ball. And he's doing that with great effect. I am very interested to see this Michigan defense or the Michigan offense go on the road this weekend to go play USC. Because obviously the last time they went on the road, it did not go great, but that was against an Oklahoma defense that's a really good Oklahoma defense. This is a weekend when I am very intrigued to see what does Bryce Underwood look like, because it feels like he's taken several steps since that Oklahoma game. Mm-hmm. So, what does he look like on the road, and what are they able to do this weekend? How does the offensive line hold up on the road? All of that stuff, because, this is not a great USC team by any means, but it's also one of the biggest tests that Michigan's going to have between now and the Ohio State game. So this feels like if they could get through this, you're probably legitimately having a college football playoff conversation about them all the way through the end of the regular season.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting Michigan USC game. Certainly more interesting than Wisconsin, Michigan. And if they do get through this, USC has the number 1 scoring offense in the Big Ten, middle of the pack, Big Ten defense. Michigan, middle of the pack, Big Ten offense. I think we'd say one of the better Big Ten defenses for the Wolverines. And this is a 3:30 kick. Is that correct? So we'll get 3:30 or 7:30. No, it's a 7:30. I think we'll be able to listen to it on the drive home from Illinois. And it's one that we'll be locked in on for sure. And I'm just I think the attacking of the Michigan secondary, and we can switch to the Michigan defensive side of the ball now, because there wasn't a lot of standout defensively, because there's not a lot to stand out about when you're playing Wisconsin, really. I mean, it's just a bunch of mashing. It's like, ooh, that guy's a really good demolition driver. Like, did you see the way he steers into the right side of the side panel of that car? And it's like, there's an art to it, I'm sure, but I'm not nuanced enough to know who is a good demo car driver. Like, watching somebody succeed against Wisconsin's offense, sure, whatever. You should. That's kind of how I feel with Wisconsin going out there with their third quarterback, and Hunter Simmons doing actually not terrible, 18 of 29 for 177, threw an interception to Rod Moore, who looks like he's fully back. He covered about half a field to get to the interception that was thrown into triple coverage. So good job, Rod Moore, in catching that. Good to see him back, presumably fully. And even if he's not fully by now, Tom, by the time Ohio State gets there, he's going to be fully healthy. Bryce Underwood is no longer going to be a true freshman. And it feels like the sooner Ohio State could play Michigan, the better, because there'd be less of Matt Patricia's defense. You can see there'd be like Rod Moore still working his way back. The Michigan that Ohio State sees in November should be the very best version of the Wolverines.
Yeah, if everyone's healthy, then that's going to be a very, very talented Michigan team by the time they get to Ohio State. I do just get real nervous every time I see Bryce Underwood running the ball. Like, I know he's a big dude, but have they played anyone else at quarterback all season? I feel like I can't, off the top of my head, think of anyone else taking snaps.
They have, but they're just handing the ball off, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I every time I watch Bryce Underwood take a hit, it's kind of like, he's big. Yes, he is elusive. He doesn't take a lot of real direct hits, but it just feels like so much of their season hinges on keeping him healthy. And, it's different than when we were watching Damon Williams for Washington. And it's like, you are so tiny, you should not take these hits. Bryce Underwood is a big dude, big, strong dude. You still, a lot of Michigan season hinges on keeping Bryce Underwood healthy. So I kind of cringe a little bit when he takes those big hits. But on the defensive side of the ball, Rod Moore had him written down where he just, even before the interception, I wrote down, like, he didn't have a big statistical day, but you just kind of felt him. He was just around the ball, just a really, he was Rod Moore. He was exactly what you come to expect from Rod Moore. Very, very solid on the back end. He's going to be a very, very important part of the defense when they play a more competent passing attack, such as this weekend. This is going to be a big Rod Moore game this weekend out at USC. The other guy I wanted to mention was Derek Moore. Felt like he had a pretty good game coming off the edge. Jayshon Barham had a little bit of a quieter game. And, again, it feels like teams sometimes are able to run at him in a way that you might be able to, if he's coming off the edge, he is hell on wheels. If you run right at him, you're going to have maybe more success than trying to just let him rush off the edge. So it feels like that's maybe something to just kind of keep your eye on there. And the only other note I had is another missed field goal. And I know this was a low snap, but you're getting just some weird, wonky stuff out of the Michigan special teams that you didn't in previous seasons. This was, I just saw in the box score that Zavada had missed another field goal, and it was like a 27-yarder or a 32-yarder or something. It was like, what the heck is going on? And you watch, and it was a low snap. So, okay, so that's not on him. But just the field goals were so automatic for Michigan for years, and it's just been one little weird thing goes wrong, and all of a sudden it's not automatic anymore. And when you're going to play a game against a team like USC, where, okay, now you can't just out-talent them necessarily, that's the kind of thing that you'd better be able to execute the basic stuff like that, because a field goal might be what decides the game.
Yeah, and they also had a bad snap, different guy, the center, bad snap on a fourth down that was a little bit low and had some hot sauce on it, and Bryce Underwood dropped it and had to just dive on it, and they lost possession because it was fourth down. So just little things like that. Yeah, you can handle it at home against Wisconsin. I don't think it's going to be good news on the road at USC. In a sold-out environment, Tom, but I'm going to assume it's might be closer to 50-50 than 90-10 in terms of the crowd out there. I'm looking forward to it. if USC is good, they should win this. Michigan, I guess, if they do win this, is it time to start believing in them, or is this? I guess it just depends, because if this is a game that USC just loses, and it's like, oh, yeah, this is one where I'm not going to give Michigan any credit, or if they just go in and maybe suffocate USC and harass Jade Maava, like I think they can get after Zeke Berry at corner. I think they did get after Jair Hill at corner a little bit, but his pass interference was not called on the Rod Moore interception. So we've been saying it all year. Like, these corners can be had. Rod Moore makes them better, but he can only be in one place at a time. So I'm very interested to see how this secondary gets attacked by the USC passing game.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be the best test they have gotten probably at least since the Oklahoma game, and probably outside of that all season. I mean, Nebraska was okay, but Nebraska doesn't have great wide receivers. Barney, I think, had a nice game in that one, but in the pass game, but that was kind of it in that one. And you're going to get a better test this weekend. I am fascinated to see what this game looks like, because if Michigan wins this game, here's the rest of their schedule.
Yeah.
Washington at home, at Michigan State, Purdue at home, at Northwestern, at Maryland, Ohio State. Before you get to Ohio State, which of those games is Michigan even like a 35 or 40% likely to lose? I would have them as a favorite of, at least a 4 or 5 point favorite, at least in probably all of those games, probably closer to a touchdown or more in most of them. And, the thing really to me is your road games are at Michigan State, which, that's a weird series and weird things happen, but it's an in-state game. You don't have to get on a big scary airplane like James Franklin did last week. But then you're playing Northwestern at Wrigley, you're playing at Maryland. Like, none of these are, we were at the Ohio State Northwestern game at Wrigley last year. That game was 98% Ohio State fans, and I'm sure it's going to be 98% Michigan fans at that one this year. Maryland, that is not a scary road environment. It's there. If Michigan wins this game, there is a very good chance in my mind that they enter that Ohio State game 11-1 or 10-1. And then even if you just have a competitive loss, you're probably in the playoff. I mean, this is not quite a playoff play-in game for Michigan, but it's close-ish. If they lose this one, then you've really got to run the table probably. You win this one, boy, they are maybe going to be playoff, looking like you're kind of punching your ticket to the playoff a little bit at that point. And then if you can continue to keep Bryce Underwood healthy, and if you can continue to grow with Andrew Marsh and guys like that, this is a team that might not be, I don't want to spoil it. They're not winning the national championship this year, but I also, if I'm, Tennessee or Ole Miss or something, I don't know that I want to see Michigan lining up across from me in round one of the playoff. That might not be a great matchup for some teams if they can continue to progress the way that they have.
Yeah, because there's enough there to do damage, similar to how like Terrell Pryor got Ohio State to the BCS in every year that he played college football. And if there was a 12-team playoff in 2008, how many teams would have wanted to play Ohio State at that point in the season? So that's an interesting question, but the later on in the season, the better they get. I do wonder, looking at this USC thing, you say if Michigan wins, they're pretty much in. USC, they need this one, and then they still need to win at Notre Dame or at Oregon, and still also need to win at Nebraska, and that's no easy thing for them. So they've got a much tougher slate of games just because of those road games and that rivalry with Notre Dame, which Michigan used to have. They said we don't want it anymore. USC still manly enough to go ahead and want that rivalry, want that smoke, and then they're going to have to handle it the week after the Michigan game on the road. Hope it's not too chilly as the leaves are changing colors.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley, famously all about that smoke. That is definitely what his career. That's why he's still at Oklahoma, not scared of the SEC. Didn't think, you know where I'm going to go? I'm going to go to the Pac-12. And wait, what's that? Oh no. Yes, their remaining schedule: Michigan, then at Notre Dame, then a week off, then at Nebraska, Northwestern at home. I'll give them that one. Iowa at home, yeah, probably get that one. At Oregon. Boy, that's I don't think I will tell you, I would have been pretty surprised if you told me in April that we'd be here in October and I'd be saying I am way more confident in Michigan potentially making the college football playoff. They certainly have a way better chance of making the college football playoff than USC does at this point. And a lot of that is schedule based, but also Michigan is a better team than I was expecting them to be at this point in the calendar. Again, not, you can go ahead and book whatever trips you want to book for like MLK weekend. Season's going to be over at that point. It's fine, but it's going to be a more interesting back half of the season for Michigan than I was expecting it to be.
I still fully expect USC to win this weekend, but it's just, there's still a harder road for USC to go. And I thought you were making, when I said all the smoke and you talked Lane Kiffin or Lincoln Riley, I thought you were going to make a brisket joke.
Yes. And I thought about it. Didn't want to derail us too much. We do that enough already.
So yes. So there you go. Anything else that you wanted to touch on about this game? Please don't.
Yeah, I think we've covered most of the big stuff that I had. And yeah, I'm interested to see the Michigan USC game. I'm just gonna, while we're talking right now, I'm gonna pull up SP Plus and just sort of see. Yeah, it has USC by like a field goal, 30-27. I mean, that's if Michigan scores 27 points, is that a good thing if the game gets up to, if both teams score in the high 20s, is that a good thing for Michigan or a bad thing for Michigan?
Probably bad. I think USC is more comfortable there. But I kind of feel like this is going to be high scoring. And since I like USC in this one, then maybe that's good for USC, but low scoring certainly better for Michigan, right?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, no one loves rock fights more than Michigan. Yeah. So outside of like the service academies, no one loves rock fights more than Michigan. So yeah, I would say the higher scoring it is, the better for USC probably. I'm like you said earlier, fascinated to see how these Michigan corners hold up against what will be probably the best passing attack they've faced so far. Probably, Oklahoma with John Mateer is solid, but he's more of a dual threat type than a pure pocket passer.
So I'm on OddsShark looking at this, and the opening odds for this had Michigan -1.5. And so my question is this: are these opening back in like July or August? Right now it's USC -2.5, -3. I wouldn't expect Michigan to open as a favorite. That seems more like a summer line than a fall line, but it was quickly corrected by the bettors, but we'll see how it goes.
By the famously skilled and knowledgeable gambling public. So there you go. Why bother even playing the game?
Certainly. And why bother even betting? So that will do it. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up. We would appreciate that. And of course, if you're listening, a 5-star rating and review on any podcast platform of your choice is always appreciated. And as always, you can find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com, where we're talking about Ohio State, Michigan, a lot to talk about in the Big Ten. Did you guys see what happened with Penn State? Talking about that as well. No, listen, we got to go. We don't need to, that's Penn State Poos Day, as Tom would say. Did you want to throw something in, Tom? Did you?
No, I was just going to say Michigan's going out to Los Angeles. What could possibly go wrong for a former Big Ten East powerhouse heading west to the City of Angels, Tony? What could possibly go wrong?
I wonder if they're going to get out there Thursday. The good news is they could just go to the Detroit airport, which has runways long enough to get to California. unlike the Penn State Nittany Lions, they have to bus to an airport to get on a plane with the runways long enough. So thank you all for tuning in. As again, find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Say hello to us there on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all later.